ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Monday. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Coming up today on the program, we're going to hear from Bobby Iddings, the Thundering Herd in action tonight at the Cam Henderson Center. Second round of the WNIT. Taking on UMBC, so Bobby's got the call on ESPN+. We'll hear from him at about 5:30. Until then, plenty of time for you. Our text line again, open at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Of course, a busy week starting tonight. Tomorrow, we've got softball non-conference action for the Thundering Herd, taking on the Redhawks of Miami, and then we've got the game tomorrow. We're going to go on the air right after the show. It's Marshall and WVU at Jack Cook Field. Thundering Herd baseball against number 17, West Virginia. So all of that's coming up tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Of course, the big one tonight here is the women in the WNIT. This is an opportunity for head coach Julie Folks to start getting some tournament wins for the Thundering Herd, and a possibility here, if Marshall can win this one, might take on Youngstown State. I was hoping for Ohio, to be quite honest, because I don't understand still to this day why the Bobcats are maybe not as receptive to playing the Thundering Herd. It's an easy series. It's about 90 minutes driving time. We're not talking about a long trip. It's a day trip. You drive down to Huntington that day, you play the game, and then you drive back, and you're all set, and Marshall can return the favor. That should be played every year. Marshall, Ohio should be played in all series for almost everything. Football, obviously. Basketball. If there's a sport where Marshall and Ohio can play, those two teams should be playing. But I just don't understand why we haven't seen more from the women's basketball series. So I'm hoping that Marshall, of course, in WNIT will continue on. Possibility to take on possibly Youngstown State. That would be fun for me to see the Herd take on Youngstown State. But Bobby's going to join us here in a few minutes. We'll talk to him and get his thoughts on the game. It's been a while since the Thundering Herd's been in action. We got to go all the way back to the Sun Belt Conference tournament and the Thundering Herd losing. So the argument for me is it rest versus rust? There's been a lot of rest for the Thundering Herd. There's been a lot of, I don't want to say inactivity. Thundering Herd, of course, has been practicing, but is that really the same as playing a basketball game? And will Marshall find it, hey, we've been sitting a little too long, haven't played for a while? Of course, this is partially what the Sun Belt does. The Sun Belt has its tournament about a week before the rest of the country has tournaments, and so there's sort of that gap in between. I don't know if that's really going to help or hurt. With Troy, obviously, didn't help at all that rest. So, Thundering Herd in action tonight. We'll talk about it more with you, and we'll get your text, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. While we're on the subject of Marshall women's basketball, of course, Kim Caldwell leaving Marshall for Tennessee. That was a dream job for her, and nobody could fault her for that. Leaving Marshall to go coach at Tennessee, going into a situation where you're the head coach of one of the most prestigious programs in women's college athletics. And the Tennessee Volunteers ended 16-14. She said after the loss, it was the worst year of her professional career. Tennessee ended the season on an 8-game losing skid. 76-61 loss to NC State, first round. And this is not Tennessee Volunteers basketball. So 16-14, that's not Volunteers basketball. And that is the lowest winning percentage in history for the Volunteers. And I get it. It's the worst year of her professional career. And she plays this really interesting style of basketball. We've seen it in action, Glenville State. We've seen it in action in Huntington. And I know she had some problems this year. Said the team really didn't stick to the system, and it all went south. And she said, quote, "You can't play this style of play and put in a plan B." And we put in a plan B. she added, I think when you do that, you lose your identity, you lose your buy-in, you lose your staff a little bit, and there's fault from the top, and that's from me. I did that in the middle of the season. I know better than to do that, and it was the worst year of my professional career. Our players deserve better than that from me. And third first-round loss in program history. The Volunteers don't go home early. When you think the NCAA tournament, you think the Lady Vols. Longest losing streak since the start of the NCAA women's basketball era in 1981. And the first team in at least 20 years to enter the tournament, 7 consecutive losses. So things have not been going well this season for Kim Caldwell. And then, of course, I saw social media. That was probably my first mistake right there. I saw social media comparing what she did, and there were a few pundits that had to put some shots out there. Hey, because she was someone that a lot of Mountaineer fans wanted to see take the program on at WVU. And of course, the Mountaineers are in action, and that's coming up now at the Coliseum, taking on UK, trying to get to the Sweet 16 in the women's tournament. And so there's been a nice turnaround for the program in Morgantown. Of course, Caldwell was considered for that, and a lot of people thought, hey, maybe she got the shaft on that. She did not get a lot of respect. She could have been the head coach of the Mountaineers, and she's a West Virginia native, great coach. Why didn't she get the consideration? And then, of course, Marshall was able to come in, give her that first Division I opportunity. She had a tremendous season, got the herd in the NCAA tournament, and then after that, takes off for Tennessee. And then you bring Julie Folks in, and Julie's got a year of adjustment and had a tremendous run last year in the tournament. That tournament was designed to kill you. And so 4 straight games, you get wins. You get the 5th game, and you just run out of gas. I get it. That's part of the reason why you try to get the best team. But she showed that, hey, this program can really turn into something. And, of course, the women then turned in a pretty good season. Didn't win in the tournament, so that's disappointing. Had some opportunities to even be a higher seed in the tournament, and there were some disappointments, obviously. But I feel like the women's program is on track now, and we'll see what it looks like. And, of course, again, this is a WNIT. This is not the NCAA tournament. Where you want to be is the NCAA tournament. You don't want to settle every year for the WNIT. It's a nice one-off now and then, and I don't have a problem with it. But at the same time, this is not where you want the program to be. You don't want to be a perennial WNIT team. Instead, you want to be a team that makes the NCAA tournament, wins the Sun Belt Conference consistently, wins the tournament consistently. And so if you look at tickets right now, I'm hoping there's going to be a huge walk-up for this tournament. Because looking at the tickets right now, and again, I'm hoping that the walk-up is going to, be the difference here. But there's a lot of tickets still available for this game tonight at 6 o'clock at the Henderson Center. So that's my hope, that we're going to see a good walk-up crowd tonight. It's a Monday. It's not in your normal ticket package, but there are plenty of tickets still available for this one. And there's just a lot going on this week. You've got softball tomorrow. You've got baseball. Softball is, of course, looking pretty good, taking on Miami. That should be a fun one. And that's going to be right before the baseball game. The games are separated a little bit, but still they're almost right on top of each other. And, of course, baseball tomorrow, that's going to be a big deal. Marshall's taking on the 17th-ranked WVU. Tried to get this game in earlier and then an extra add-on to the series, but this will be the first time these two teams have met this season, and that's going to have a lot of people's attention, obviously. So, Monday, WNIT basketball game. It's not Ohio, and that definitely would have, I think, helped drive a little interest. But as it stands right now, I'm kind of curious what the crowd's going to be for this. So if you're not going to the game, do you usually go to women's games? And if you do, why aren't you going if you aren't? And why are you going? Maybe you haven't been going to games so far, and you decided to go to this one. But if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, are you going to drive up, park the next 5-10 minutes, and walk on over and get your ticket? Is that how it's going to go for you? Or Yeah. Are you waiting? Not interested in this game? I'm kind of curious. What's the vibe on this game tonight? So we'll get your text, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. And don't forget, Bobby Iddings is going to join us in about 15 minutes. We're going to preview this matchup between Marshall and UMBC. UMBC going into overtime to beat the Bobcats at the Convocation Center 62-58. We'll talk about that later with Bobby. We'll hear from you when we continue on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
At Poca Valley Bank, a handshake can still mean the start of a great relationship. We've been greeting customers with a handshake since 1908. Why settle for less? If you're purchasing your first home or planning for your future, Poca Valley Bank is here to support you with personalized service and local expertise. They are your trusted advisors. Why settle for less when you can experience banking with a team that truly cares? Poca Valley Bank, where relationships matter. Visit PocaValleyBank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Looking for midweek fun? Head to Frank's Place, where every night's a party. Wednesdays are full of brains and brews with trivia night. Grab your crew and show off what you know. Thursdays, crank it up with Singo Bingo. Music meets bingo for prizes and laughs. Then Fridays, we hand you the mic for karaoke night. Sing your heart out and start your weekend right. The fun never stops at Frank's Place. Great drinks, great friends, and good times. Frank's Place, located at the River Place Plaza, next to Fratelli's. Check them out on Facebook for weekly updates and specials. Frank's Place, your home away from home.
Spring is just around the corner, and big savings are in full bloom at Menards. Visit Menards Garden Center for everything you need to get your garden growing. Choose from hundreds of beautiful, colorful flowers, lush trees and shrubs, and everything in between. Menards Garden Center is back in bloom. Stop in today to get your garden on. Check out fresh deals happening now at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
Statistics show that roughly 20 veterans die by suicide every day in the United States. And each day, over 1,000 dogs are euthanized in shelters across the country. Canines for Warriors is the leading nonprofit organization providing highly trained service dogs to veterans with PTSD and other invisible wounds of war.
Hannah and I, since we've been together, we have done so much. There's nothing I won't do now as long as Hannah's by my side. Without Hannah, I'd probably still be stuck in the living room with the curtains drawn, with my back to the wall, with probably a gun on my lap.
The majority of service dogs from canines are rescues, and with each pairing, 2 lives are changed forever. We rescue the dog rescues the warrior. To learn more about how Canines for Warriors is saving lives at both ends of the leash, please visit caninesforwarriors.org. That's caninesforwarriors.org.
Did you know that for 80 years, Paralyzed Veterans of America has been a lifeline for our nation's veterans with spinal cord injuries and diseases like MS and ALS, and all people with disabilities? In just the last 12 months, PVA has funded research of the first non-addictive pain medication in over a decade, partnered with an award-winning sports anchor to fight for accessible medical care for women veterans, ensured all women with disabilities feel seen and empowered with help from a top cosmetic company. And that doesn't even include what PVA have done over the last 80 years, like secured the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act, pioneered wheelchair basketball, helped design iconic landmarks, made the DC Metro a model transit system, and wrote and distributed resources in over 60 countries in 4 languages. None of this would be possible without your help. Every breakthrough, every battle won, and every life impacted is driven by you. Visit PVA.org to learn more.
Every 2 minutes, a child becomes a victim of sex trafficking in the U.S. It's happening right now. Don't change the channel. Don't cover your kids' ears, no matter how much you want to ignore it. Child trafficking is real. In fact, it's happening in your town. And you know what our greatest weapon against child trafficking is? It's our children. It's time to act with PACT. That's Partners Against Child Trafficking. PACT works to teach students to identify the warning signs of child trafficking so they can help other vulnerable kids around them. PACT student ambassadors receive in-depth training on the issue and design a project to raise awareness, reduce victimization, and disrupt demand. Any student around the world can sign up for PACT's online training program and learn how to stop child trafficking. Go to pact.city to sign up for the 1-hour course today. With PACT, we declare not one more victim.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Still to come at 5:30, we're going to hear from Bobby Iddings, who'll have the call of Marshall and UMBC. That is coming up tonight at the Cam Henderson Center. Going to be on ESPN Plus for those of you that can't make it. Bobby joins us in the next few minutes to preview that matchup. Until then, it's going to be open text line at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter writes in and says, Paul, I think Marshall got the better end of the deal with Julie Folks. She'll build a program, not look for the next big thing. Appreciate the text. Of course, I believe the texter alluding to Kim Caldwell and her woes at Tennessee. Look, Kim's a good coach. Absolutely good coach. And it's hard to coach at Tennessee. That is a hard program to coach at because the expectations are high, because the expectations have been set high. You just don't walk into Tennessee and expect to be below great, like certain programs. If you don't win a national championship almost every year at Alabama, you did it wrong, or Georgia, or a couple other programs. If you don't win national championships at Duke, you did it wrong. If you don't win national championships at Kentucky, you did it wrong. Of course, Kentucky being escorted out the hard way of the NCAA tournament. That was the other thing from the weekend. And, of course, you know how insane the sports fandom is where we live. And, of course, some people think that, hey, look, I don't get this. All these Marshall fans that are UK fans. And, yeah, okay, I get it as well. It seems like the allegiances are sometimes, they're split. And I'm not that way. I'm not wired that way. Of course, I can support you. I can be supportive of what you do. And honestly, it's not that hard. Like, hey, I want you to do well. I want you to do, if you're an area team, for example, if you're an area team, I'm going to be supporting you. Absolutely. Doesn't matter. If it's football teams locally in the Mountain East, Shawnee State, I'm going to be on board. Hey, let's go Shawnee State. All of that. And all the other programs. High schools as well. And I've got the advantage since my high school is closed now. I no longer have a high school. I can honestly be supportive of all the high school teams in the area because, my Huntington High, the Pony Express, that's gone. But there is a subsect of Herd fans. There is a culture of Kentucky being my other team. And so everyone's other team got beat 82-63 by Iowa State. It is the worst NCAA tournament loss for Kentucky since 1972. And the Wildcats finished the season with a 22-14 record. I mean, that's a good record, 22-14. But you didn't win the SEC regular season championship. You didn't win the tournament. And you got bounced in the second round of the NCAA tournament. And, of course, I haven't checked in with a few folks today. And you've got those friends as well. Oh, man, Kentucky lost. And if you're a Kentucky fan and you're a diehard UK Kentucky fan, I get it. That's not a good day for you, and I absolutely understand it. But why is there that split allegiance? Why is there that split allegiance? And it's not just one person. I see this all the time. Hey, I'm a Marshall fan, but I root for UK as well. Okay. If you like watching them, that's fine. I get that. Hey, I watch them. I entertain them. It's entertaining. I'll watch hockey games sometimes. It's not my team, but I'll watch. Hey, that's a good game. I'm going to watch that. I'm not necessarily invested in it, but there are people that on Monday it's Marshall gear, Tuesday it's UK gear, and Wednesday it's something else. Let's go to the text line. Texter says, Paul, I think hosting a WNIT game is great for our team and fans. Go Herd. Absolutely. Appreciate the text there. No, it's perfectly acceptable to be a team in the WNIT. If you're a team that's playing in the NIT or the WNIT, that's great. I don't look down on it. And the fact that Marshall gets the host. Now, the NIT on the men's side, it gets overlooked sometimes because we're all talking about the big dance, right? We're talking about the NCAA tournament. And if you've got a team in the NIT, yeah, you're interested in it. And it's more of a, okay, my team's in it, I'm interested. And then you have the WNIT, which doesn't get as much press than the women's tournament. Obviously, the men's tournament, the WNIT is maybe fourth in the pecking order because you get the men's tournament, the women's tournament, probably the NIT, because there are a lot of eyeballs on the women's tournament. It's really expanded its reach, and people are coming to the realization that, hey, this is some fun basketball. And then you have the secondary tournaments, and I'm okay with that. Marshall gets the host, opportunity for the Herd to continue its season. These young ladies wanted to be here and to continue to play, and that's a big one as well. You have to keep in mind that some of these teams, after these bids go out, NCAA tournament, okay, well, I'm going to hit the transfer portal. But if you can hang on to your team, it's a great opportunity for you to hopefully build towards next year. Put this team through a few games if you're lucky and start looking to next year, and you have something to play for. And it's more time with your team as well, and hopefully the core comes back. And if the core comes back, you've gotten more experience here. And honestly, it's a beautiful day on a Monday evening. Take the kids, take the family, go support the Herd. And that's going to be at 6 o'clock tonight at the Cam Henderson Center. Speaking of supporting the Herd, Bobby Iddings is going to tell us more about the matchup between the Herd and UMBC, the Retrievers. Herd Retrievers coming up tonight, 6 o'clock at the Cam Henderson Center. Bobby's going to get us updated on everything happening when we continue on this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Metro Community Federal Credit Union now brings you all the tech that big banks have, but still has that personal touch of a member-owned community credit union. Apple Pay? Got it. Digital wallet? Yep. Message pay by text, online loan payments, even chatting with a real person, not a bot. Open accounts, sign documents, and manage your money all online. It's the big bank tech you need from the local community-minded credit union you trust. Metro Community FCU. Visit metrocommunityfcu.com today.
Cold weather's on its way, and what do you want on those cold, chilly evenings? A warm blanket and a hot cup of cocoa. Well, you know who else wants the same comfort? Mice. Messy, uninvited guests. They sneak in and leave droppings, chew through your food and packages. Don't let mice take over your home this fall and winter. Call K&B Pest Control. We will kill for your business. Call today, 304-523-4281.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Follow at Paul Swann on X for Marshall sports updates and more.
We continue on with your Monday edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. For those of you who can't make it tonight, you get to hear the voice of Bobby Iddings. He'll have the call of Marshall and UMBC. That's coming up 6 o'clock at the Cam Henderson Center. Bobby has been so gracious to join us once again for a preview. Big game Bobby Iddings is what we're going to start calling you. You got all the big matchups, including the Herd's visit into the WNIT. First ever matchup between Marshall and UMBC. I know you got to be excited for that.
Yeah, it'll be a cool night, right? It's an opportunity for 6 seniors that thought their season was over about 17 days ago, and you get an opportunity to play in the postseason, albeit not the postseason you really wanted, but a really cool opportunity for specifically a couple players that have spent their 4 years here that really makes it important and a passionate night for them as well.
17 days. What's the challenge there? We're not talking a week or so. We're talking 17 days.
Yeah, and I talked to Julie Folks about that. I got a chance to talk to her on Friday after a press conference and said, what's the decision-making process for this? Because it can't be an easy decision, right? You go from an extremely emotional day. You saw the tears from Peyton Illerton specifically on the floor after that loss down in Pensacola to South Alabama. You see the frustration on the faces of the different players. And she said, look, we gave them a couple days off. We made sure that they were going to be able to have some days to be able to really kind of figure out, do we want to play in this tournament? And she said, if we would have asked him immediately after the game, we probably wouldn't have said, hey, we don't want to play. We would have said we don't really want to be involved in terms of being in a postseason tournament. But instead, they took a couple days. They took that weekend off. They took a couple of days off the next week, and then they finally decided, hey, we're going to play. We're going to play in this tournament. We're going to really go out and try and put our best foot forward and play as well as we played all season. So it was one of those things where I think you have to give, and she said it, and I think it was a great quote. She's like, it's an emotional game. It's an emotional time. You've got to give your team a couple days to decide, do they want to play in something like this? And it really shows you how much she understands her team as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, because a lot of these young ladies, the ones that remain after it's all said and done, could have decided, hey, we're out of here. We're hitting the transfer portal. We don't want to be a part of this. Thanks for everything. But you got a great core that wanted to finish out, hopefully, on a high note with the tournament run. And then you've got a lot of young ladies who decided, hey, we want to play this as well. It's great when you get the buy-in because, Bobby, to be quite candid, we've seen teams that didn't have buy-in, and those have been terrible games.
Well, and you could even point to potentially, and look, you could point to UMBC playing against Ohio U the other day. Ohio U was probably the favorite in that game in the first round of this WNIT, and UMBC comes out, and they got out to really a terrible start. UMBC had 16 points the entire first half of that one. And you listen to Candace Hill, she says, hey, we challenged them in the locker room. They came out. We were a second-half team, and we won the second half, and we won the overtime up in Athens last weekend. So you look at that, and if you're not totally bought into a tournament like this, acknowledging the fact that we're not going to win a national championship. And that is terrible, and that sucks. If you're a player, if you're a fan, you have to acknowledge that. But to be able to see some players who have obviously given their all to one school for the last 6 months at this point, because you got to think, the season doesn't just start in November for a lot of these players. It starts September 1, something like that, when they report to school. So for them to be able to come out and get at least a postseason berth, it's an extremely valuable thing for Julie Falks, and she's able to put her program on spotlight tonight. You get an opportunity to play in the postseason. He said, we want to be one of the 60 teams left after tonight that are still playing basketball. Because if you look at it, look at the NCAA tournament, there'll be 16 left. Some of the other tournaments, the WBIT, the WNIT, there's not many games left to be played after today.
Speaking of Julie Falks, there's been a lot of progress with this program. You go from Kim Caldwell that gets the team in the NCAA tournament in an amazing, hard-to-replicate run. And then she leaves for Tennessee, and she's found that difficult. For Coach Falks, maybe not the instant success of getting into the NCAA tournament, but year one, it's sort of getting your feet on your ground. This team's showing a lot of progress. Year two, even more progress. Now, in a postseason tournament, it looks like it's been going well for Coach Falk so far. She's started to feel like, to you as well, that this program's really starting to build up to a slow but consistent rise to where it wants to be.
Well, and if you look at last season, too, if you really want to, you might got to break it down, the season and the schedule as it stacked up against them, especially at the beginning of conference play, you had the best teams in the Sun Belt right there at the beginning of conference play. And you had the same thing this year. The difference was last year, the team wasn't healthy. Whether it was a flu bug or some type of sickness or an injury or something like that at the beginning of conference play in December, January, the team just wasn't healthy. The difference this year was, for the most part, it stayed healthy throughout the majority of the season. They had the opportunity to be able to go in at 100%. And that's why you saw the team get off to such a hot start. Obviously, the Olivia Olson injury in January slowed the team down a little bit, but they still showed they had the ability to win at a high level. You still get to 23 wins on the season, one of the best totals in program history. You're still able to really run off as many wins as you wanted to, and that's where the depth came into play. This was a team that was playing 11, 12 deep at times back in November and December. Julie Falks points to that. That's why this team has been so successful. And I think now, you lose those 6 seniors, but then what? That becomes the question, because now you've got to replace a lot of players that are pretty important and paramount to the team's success, from Peyton Ilderton, Meredith Mayer, Ariana Redmond, the players that have been here for 4+ years. But then you also replace Trishandra Williams, Blessing King, Kamaya Lewis-Utsi, who, look, no one's going to say it. I'll say it. That should have been the player of the year. You look at the importance to the team that she had. You look at some of the advanced metrics. She was the most important player to her team in the Sun Belt Conference this year. Didn't get the player of the year. She gets the newcomer of the year. She's the player of the year. I think if you ask any Marshall fan, she's got to be the player of the year in the conference. So what happens from here? That's the big question. But I think Julie Falks has got that resume with over 400 career wins that she's shown that she's got the ability to continue building.
Bobby Iddings is with us. He's going to have the call. This one's tonight on ESPN+. It's Marshall against the UMBC Retrievers. What are we expecting crowd-wise? I know tickets are still available. Are you expecting a huge walk-up for this one? Herd fans showing up late and getting a seat. Opportunity, of course, to root the Herd on, and maybe, if we're lucky, get to see Youngstown State in the next round.
Yeah, I think you should probably see a crowd about what you've seen all year, right around 1,000, maybe pushing the 1,500 mark. Again, it's a fun team to watch. They get up and down the floor. They really want to push the pace. They love to shoot the three ball. Tamaya Luasusi gets to the line. They play a fun sort of brand of basketball. They want to be able to really attack the bucket. They want to force you to be uncomfortable. That's what they love to do. So that means you don't have anything to do tonight, right? It's a Monday night, not a ton of things going on. Come on down. It's a fun brand of basketball. There's going to be plenty of tickets. You can get in. You can see a real fun team, and potentially the last time, who knows, depending on what happens in that Youngstown State, University of Maryland Eastern Shore game tomorrow, maybe the last time you get a chance to see some of these players in this Marshall uniform. They obviously want to really rebound from what was a disappointing last regular season against Georgia Southern. That was not the way that they wanted to finish the year, obviously, and now they've got an opportunity to finish in a lot more positive note than what we saw a couple of weeks ago.
What do you know about this UMBC team? We know that it beat Ohio, obviously. It went to overtime, down by 17 in the second, came back. Jade Tillman had 13 points, 5 rebounds. So we know some of the stats, some of the superficial stuff. A lot of Herd fans were hoping or expecting maybe Ohio, but this team, as you mentioned, won that second half. What have you seen from them as you look and learn about the Retrievers?
Well, I'm going to push it back on you for a second, Paul. There was a 10-2 upset today in the women's tournament. Did you see the upset?
I did not. Enlighten me.
So we've got University of Virginia, the Cavaliers, the 10 seed, who played in the first 4 on the women's side. The Cavaliers upset Iowa, Ann Jansen's team, to get to the Sweet 16 today. That is the same UVA team that UMBC went on the road back in November and beat in Charlottesville. That tells you the caliber of what this UMBC team has. They've got a lot of ability. You look at Candace Hill. She's done a really good job in year 2. A team that was picked to finish preseason 8th in the American East Conference, gets all the way up to 5th. This is a team that, or should be all the way up to 4th. This is the team that went on the road and really played toe-to-toe with Vermont. It was one of the best teams in the collegeinsider.com mid-major top 25 at times this season. Not the most efficient shooting bunch, but they crash the glass. They get after it. They force turnovers, a little bit similar to Marshall. They've got some height. They've got your 5'10", 5'11", 6'1", very athletic on the defensive end. Played defensively very similar to what Ohio did. Talking to Julie Folks, she said, hey, Ohio gave us trouble when we scrimmaged them in the preseason. So Marshall's going to have to come out. They've got to limit turnovers. They've got to be able to take care of the basketball, and they've got to be able to shoot as well as Marshall can. If Marshall does that, really good chance tonight. But this is a UMBC team that is gritty, it grinds, and that's exactly what you heard. And, for lack of actually make the dad joke, they're dogs, is what Coach Candace Hill said. Of course they are. They're retrievers.
They're dogs. They are retrievers. And looking at that overtime, double overtime, wow. Virginia with the win over Iowa. I did not see that, so that's amazing. And, of course, you mentioned Ohio. Coach Folk's been trying to get them on the regular season schedule for a bit now. I'd love to see that series resume. That's why I think a lot of people were hoping that it'd be Ohio-Marshall tonight here at the Henderson Center. Despite the fact we're going to get a good game with UMBC, but it seems like we can't get that regular season matchup between two teams that should be playing in everything. I don't care what it is.
Yeah, 60 miles from one another. Should be playing every sport. I mean, let's just call it what it is. You heard Julie Foltz in the press conference the other day. She said, look, we've been trying to play them forever. Right now, they can only get a scrimmage on the schedule between the two schools. Obviously, they play in multiple sports. But really, there should be a game between the two schools in every sport. I mean, let's just call it what it is. To not have it on there in a day where costs are rising, you got the G5s that are getting priced out. You saw the comments from the head coach at High Point the other day. You saw the quotes from Travis Steele. You saw all the different coaches saying something. It's an opportunity for your best teams, your most regional teams. You want to save on costs? An easy bus ride? You can be back by 11 o'clock? Why not? What's it going to hurt? It makes no sense for the two teams that are 60 miles away from one another to not play in every sport regularly.
They should play. I'll form a club hockey team just to get the Bobcats on the schedule. I'll do it. I'll take charge of this thing.
As long as you wear the old Blizzard unis, I'm good with it.
You know what? I think we might be able to dig some of those up. Can we pull up Klondike as the mascot? What can we do here?
Heck yeah. Are you going to wear the costume? That's my question.
I did see the costume recently. I know it's still around.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. The costume was worn I will protect the innocent, but or not innocent, but I will protect names. The costume was worn. There was a Jim Birmingham. There was a memorial for him here in Huntington, and somebody brought the costume out, and so it looked actually pretty good. I wasn't that close to it. It might smell, but it was actually looked pretty good.
Hey, you can tell me how it smells when you put it on.
I'll do it. I'm going to do that. Let's make this happen. Bobby Iddings is with us. You got the game tonight. ESPN Plus. If the Herd wins, we'll find out if Marshall will be a home or a road team in the next round. I've got to imagine Marshall's got to be at least a home team for that next round. Who knows? But WNIT, big opportunity for Jolie Folks and her squad tonight to get on a run. Hey, let's keep this thing going. You and I are pretty successful with these postseason runs.
Yeah, let's see what happens, man. It's only about 15 minutes till tip, and we'll see what happens here inside the camp.
All right, ESPN Plus is where it's at. Bobby's going to take us the rest of the way there. Bobby, thanks as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, Paul.
There you have it. He'll have the call tonight, Bobby Iddings, on ESPN Plus. We will get your text in, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. It's The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Mike Rowe here with another random fact. Those cracks on your walls aren't just cosmetic. They could mean your home is sinking. Whether it's drywall cracks, exterior cracks, or sticking doors or windows, do yourself a favor. Call Groundworks. I spent some time working with these guys, and they're the real deal. Their people are trained and certified to stabilize your foundation. Baker's Waterproofing and Basement Authority of West Virginia are now Groundworks. Schedule a free inspection.
Licensed in all states where work is performed. See website for details.
Stuck in a state of falling behind, struggling to keep up with kids, finances, insurance, and life? Well, let your State Farm agent help you simplify and get to a better state. With State Farm handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time to handle everything else. More money, too. Adding State Farm policies can earn discounts that could add up to 40%. Help you get ahead. Call an agent today and get to a better state with State Farm. In Huntington, Ray Crabtree, 304-736-8181. In Milton, Russ McRae, 304-743-9318. And in Lavallette, Jason Elkins, 304-529-7555.
Looking for midweek fun? Head to Frank's Place, where every night's a party. Wednesdays are full of brains and brews with trivia night. Grab your crew and show off what you know. Thursdays, crank it up with Singo Bingo. Music meets bingo for prizes and laughs. Then Fridays, we hand you the mic for karaoke night. Sing your heart out and start your weekend right. The fun never stops at Frank's Place. Great drinks, great friends, and good times. Frank's Place, located at the River Place Plaza, next to Fratelli's. Check them out on Facebook for weekly updates and specials. Frank's Place, your home away from home.
For 70 years, the Humane Society of the United States has worked to end animal cruelty. Now, we're continuing that mission as Humane World for Animals. We're working around the globe to care for animals who are suffering today. And we tackle the root causes of cruelty for a kinder tomorrow. We bring big ideas, bold action, knowing that together we can make a difference. We're building a humane world where wild animals stay wild and protected, where farmed animals no longer suffer, and no animals are used in experiments, where our companions are cared for throughout their lives. We are Humane World for Animals, driving global change for the end of animal cruelty. Help make change for animals. Visit humaneworld.org.
As kids across America head to class to learn and grow, there's one school supply they absolutely cannot do without: nutritious food. Yet, right now, in the United States, millions of kids are living with hunger, making it harder to learn, to play, to dream. This is something we can't ignore. But there is an answer. When kids get healthy meals, they have greater focus, more energy, and higher grades. Kids like Ariella, who dreams of being a teacher and whose hardworking parents struggle to make ends meet. Or Victoria and Andre, whose mom wants nothing more than a great life for her kids. A life that she knows they can achieve with just a little extra help. Nothing is more important than feeding the hopes and dreams of children. To learn more about ending child hunger in America, go to helpnokidhungry.org.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we were separated.
We were able to get in
all
touch with each other
scrambling
in
and
no
had
time.
no idea how to find each other.
My husband kept the kids
tried
occupied.
calling our son, but there was no reception. Everything was down. I felt like breaking
we
down and
handled everything
crying,
very
but I
well.
had to try and stay calm. The whole experience was the most frightening 10 hours of my life. It was kind of like
a
the
little
nightmare
family
every
adventure.
mother hopes will never happen to her. I remember the moment
relief of
that
being
I
together.
realized he was out there all alone.
If
there's
there's
one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there,
it's to stay
don't
calm
ignore
and
this
keep to the
message.
plan.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. A public service announcement brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Miss an episode? Catch it anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We're wrapping up today's edition of Your Drive. Our text line is open rest of the way at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter says, Paul, my wife and I are on our way to the game right now because we want to show support for Coach Fulks and the players who have chosen to call Huntington and Marshall University home. Some of these young women may well become big ambassadors for the program in the future. Appreciate the text. Yeah, it should be a fun one tonight. It's an opportunity for the Herd to win, get another opportunity to play again, and women's sports really taking off. I know you know that, but for a lot of people, they're starting to find out more. And I think that's partially because of it's not the full reason here, but there's a lot of interest generated. The Caitlin Clark effect, for one. I think the women's hockey team winning the gold and a lot of people following along, that's helped a lot. And I think they've gotten a lot of push. By the way, Wisconsin beating Ohio State in the women's Frozen Four 3-2. So back-to-back national championships for Wisconsin. Those are two big-time programs in women's hockey. And so Wisconsin getting it done, had several Olympians on that Wisconsin Badgers roster. And, of course, speaking of tournament action, Bobby alluded to it earlier. Our guest, Bobby Iddings, as we were previewing Marshall and UMBC. The NCAA tournament continues for the women, and Alabama falls to Louisville 69-68. So Alabama is out. Virginia with the upset of number 2 Iowa 83-75, so the 10 seed over the 2 seed. Coming up later tonight, it will be number 8 seed Oklahoma State versus number 1 seed UCLA. That is in Region 2 in Sacramento. Later tonight as well, it'll be number 9 seed USC taking on the 1 seed South Carolina in Region 4 in Sacramento. Also, it will be, this is Region 1 in Fort Worth, it'll be number 7 seed Illinois and number 2 seed Vanderbilt. And Region 1 in Fort Worth in the second round tonight, it will be number 9 seed Syracuse taking on number 1 seed UConn. Games that are in progress. In the Region 1 Fort Worth area, it's number 6 seed Notre Dame leading the number 3 seed Ohio State Buckeyes 73-59. Again, this is Region 1 in Fort Worth. And then Region 3 in Fort Worth, second round. This is, of course, the game being hosted by WVU, the Mountaineers, and the Kentucky Wildcats. West Virginia, Kentucky, halftime score, 36-all. This one's going to come right down to the wire. So we'll keep you updated on that game. And, of course, we'll get your text in, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That is our number to be a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. That's the one thing that I like about the women's tournament is the fact that you get to host because you've got the 4 regionals and you get to host some of the opening games. So West Virginia right now, and I saw some of the photos earlier on social media, there was a lot of people lining up to go see that game. And why wouldn't you? You've got a big matchup between West Virginia and Kentucky, and that is, honestly, that's pretty exciting. And the winner of this one would possibly get a chance to maybe make a serious run. But the next matchup will be for either Kentucky or West Virginia, it's going to be number 1 seed Texas. Texas got the win over Oregon 100-58. So, again, this is a Regional 3, but this is being hosted by West Virginia, and it's at halftime now. Again, it's 36-all for the 5-seed Kentucky Wildcats and the 4-seeded West Virginia Mountaineers. And, of course, if I know better, I know Marshall fans are rooting for Kentucky right now. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That's our text line to be a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Nobody took me up on that. I'm surprised. There's a lot of people that, if you're a Marshall fan, your second team is Kentucky. Now, I know a few people that their first team or their second team, depending on where they're at the time, is Ohio State. And there are some people that have went to Marshall undergrad work and then gotten grad work at Ohio State. So I get that. If you've got more than one school that you've attended, yeah, you can be split. You can root for both. That's fine. I allow it. Not that you need that allowance or care, but I allow it because you got skin in the game at that point. For example, if you're a grad of one school and you have children that are going to another school and you have to kind of, all right, I'll be on board with them for right now. I mean, the house divided thing. Hey, we root for both Marshall and West Virginia. Of course, we got kids who go to Marshall. We got kids who go to WV. Okay, I'll allow it. That's fine. I get it. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who just, okay, I'm a UK fan today, and I can't do that. I can be supportive, but I'm not, like, declaring myself a fan or wearing the – look, I've suffered long. I'm a Bengals fan. You know this. I'm not sitting there going, you know what? I think I'm going to be a Chargers fan today here because they're looking pretty good right now. Or, my first team's the Bengals, but, hey, I do root for the Chiefs. No, I can't do that. The only time I'm partially split is the NBA because I'm a Knicks fan and I'm a Lakers fan. I'm a little split there. Not too much there. But in NFL terms, one team only. In the NBA, I'm a little split there. In the NHL, there are a lot of teams that I enjoy following, but it's one team and one team only. And for baseball, believe it or not, one team only, but I do loan support to another team because, of course, it's company policy, and I'll leave it at that. No, seriously, I get it. You can be fans of any team you want to. I mean, for our purposes here, there are a lot of people that are Marshall first and Marshall second, Marshall third, but there are a lot of people that just they jump all over the spectrum here. Like, hey, I'm going to be over here today. I'm going to be over here tomorrow. Oh, hey, they're the one. Okay, you know what? I'm here, and that's fine. I get it. I can't have multiple teams in my wardrobe. I draw the line there. I'm not showing up to work today with a Marshall shirt. Tomorrow, the UK shirt. Wednesday was somebody else's team. Thursday, hey, unless you just like college sports and you don't have an allegiance to any team, and I get that completely. But I'm not in that mindset here. And so I did have to do a couple wellness checks today after the Wildcats got beat last night, and in disgusting fashion for UK fans. Again, Iowa State beat Kentucky 82-63, which is the worst NCAA tournament loss for UK since all the way back to 1972. So, am I alone in this? Are there some of you that suffer the divided house between teams, or the allegiance to more than one? I just can't do that. College, I can get it a little bit. I understand a little bit more. There's different reasons why you might have a slight allegiance to a particular school. For me, I don't have a dog in the fight when it comes to the Frozen Four, so I'm going to, of course, root for several teams because I'm looking for some good college hockey here. But in any other sport, it's all, for me, it's if I'm going to be a true alum, take away the impartial person. If I'm going to be a true alum, I'm going to support the school. I'm going to support my school. If Marshall doesn't have a team in a particular sport and I like following that sport, then I'll go elsewhere. And I've got rules for hockey. Like, for example, you got to be Division I. You can't be club. I can't support any other school club. So you got to be Division I. You got to be D1. You got to compete for a national championship in the NCAA ranks. For me, if Marshall doesn't have that sport, and I like that sport. That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for everyone being a part of it. We'll be back with you tomorrow here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.